Get the great balance of power of the 2025 Kawasaki Versys 1100. The 2025 Kawasaki Versys 1100 has arrived as an exceptional contender in the adventure touring segment, offering a perfect balance of comfort, performance, and rugged versatility. Designed to tackle both long-distance journeys and winding roads, this updated version of the Versys series builds on its predecessor's reputation while introducing several enhancements that elevate the riding experience. The Kawasaki Versys 1100 is a highly capable motorcycle designed to cater to adventurers who demand more from their bike. Whether you're navigating city streets, carving through twisty mountain roads, or embarking on a multi-day tour, the Versys 1100 promises a reliable and exhilarating ride. The 2025 model builds on its reputation, adding subtle updates to improve comfort, handling, and technology integration. (2025) Kawasaki Versys 1100 Engine and Performance. The essential layout of the four-cylinder engine is unchanged from the old Versys 1000, with an extra 3 mm of stroke, 59 mm instead of 56 mm. Alongside the existing 77 mm bore to achieve a 56 cc capacity increase from 1,043 cubic centimeters to 1,099 cubic centimeters. That can't explain the 15 horsepower power hike alone, and digging deeper into the engine spec reveals that the motor is closer to that used in the much more potent Ninja 1000 SX, which itself will be replaced with an enlarged Ninja 1100 SX for 2025. The compression ratio, for example, was only 10.3 to 1 on the old Versys 1000, but rises to 11.8 to 1, the same as Ninja 1000 SX, on the 2025 Versys 1100. Max power is now 133 brake horsepower, still not quite as high as the Ninja 1000 SX's 140 horsepower, but that's because the new Versys engine also gets tweaks targeting mid-range torque. These include new center intake funnels, now 45 mm longer than the outer ones, to boost grunt between 4,000 RPM and 7,000 RPM, and throttle bodies and intake ports that are narrower in relation to the engine's displacement, boosting air velocity, again in pursuit of torque. The ECU is reprogrammed, and the cam profiles are new. Once more, torque is the target here, so valve lift is reduced. On top of all that, there's a heavier flywheel and a secondary balancer to reduce vibration, plus a revised exhaust header, and an oil cooler has been added. As on the old model, max power arrives at 9,000 RPM, and peak torque now 112 Nm, 82.6 lb-ft. Instead of 102 Nm, 75.2 lb-ft, comes at 7,600 RPM instead of 7,500 RPM. Drive goes through a 6-speed box as before, with an up/down quickshifter on the S and SE models that's been reprogrammed for 2025 to reduce its minimum shift revs to just 1,500 RPM. The gear ratios have been revised to suit the new engine's extra power and torque, and a tooth is removed from the rear sprocket, which either gives a slightly higher top speed or, more usefully, a lower RPM for a given cruising speed. (2025) Kawasaki Versys 1100 Price. While the base 2025 Versys 1100 is priced £1,020 higher than the last remaining examples of the 2024 Versys 1000, coming in at £11,899 compared to £10,879 for the old bike. The higher spec S and SE versions are less than £100 more expensive than their predecessors. On a horsepower per pound basis, that's a bargain. Try to get a 15 horsepower hike for under £100 on any other bike. The Versys 1100S is the outright winner of the bunch, as its £13,649 tag is just £70 more than the £13,579 of the 2024 Versys 1000S. That's £4.66 per additional horsepower. The Versys 1100 Southeast runs it close at an £80 premium over the 2024 Versys 1000 SE, or £5.33 for each extra horse. Despite getting the biggest price increase over its predecessor, the base Versys 1100 is still substantially cheaper than the S and SE versions. It's only offered in one color combo, a gray and black scheme, while the higher spec bikes share the options of their own gray/black graphics or a more eye-catching white/black. All three versions will reach dealers in December 2024. (2025) Kawasaki Versys 1100 handling and suspension. The engine changes might be significant, but Kawasaki has left the chassis largely untouched for the 2025 model, with suspension that's carried straight across from the previous model year. That means you get an aluminum frame with 43mm inverted forks at the front and gas-charged monoshock at the back. On the base Versys and Versys S, the adjustability is limited to preload at the front and preload and rebound at the rear, but the range-topping SE gets Kawasaki's KCS electronic Showa suspension front and rear. It uses skyhook tech, where the bike's position is compared to an imagined position above it, the skyhook, and if there's too much vertical movement, the damping is automatically adjusted to minimize it, ironing out bumps and dips as you hit them. The electronics adjust the compression and rebound damping front and rear, while there's manual front preload and electronic rear preload adjustability as well. That might all be carryover stuff, but Kawasaki has made a tweak to the brakes across the range with a larger 260mm rear disc and conventional 310mm front discs instead of the pedal design of the previous model. Weight depends on which version you choose. The base model is lightest at 255 kilograms curb. The S comes in at 257 kilograms and the SE at 259 kilograms, each 2 kilograms more than their predecessors. (2025) Kawasaki Versys 1100 Comfort and Economy. In terms of comfort, the unchanged bodywork and riding position mean that we can't expect the 2025 Versys to be a huge leap compared to the previous model. Although the increased torque and more relaxed gearing promises lower revs at cruising speeds, and the engine's increased flywheel mass and balancer should reduce vibrations and improve rideability. As before, the level of comfort increases as you step up from the base Versys 1100 to the S, which gets a bigger, adjustable screen and handguards as standard, while the SE's electronic suspension raises the game another notch. Fuel economy from the revised 2025 engine is claimed to be around 50 miles per gallon, which gives a theoretical range of 220 miles from a full 21-liter tank of petrol. (2025) Kawasaki Versys 1100 Equipment. On board, the base Versys shows its age with an analog rev counter and small, monochrome LCD display for other functions, while the S and SE versions get a more modern version still with a traditional touch but using a larger, color TFT side panel, complete with all the usual Bluetooth connectivity. The higher-spec bikes also feature comforts like cruise control and IMU-based rider assist tech including power modes and cornering ABS and traction control, again as on the previous models. S and SE models also get cornering lights in the fairing. Changes for 2025 are limited to the addition of a bar-mounted USB-C port on all three variants. (2025) Kawasaki Versys 1100 Rivals. Upping power from 118 horsepower to 133 horsepower arguably pushes the Versys into a higher category altogether, moving it from a class where rivals might have included the 107 horsepower Suzuki V-Strom 1050, 105 horsepower BMW F900 XR, and 113 horsepower Ducati Multistrada V2 into one where rivals include the 150 horsepower Suzuki GSX, S1000 GX and perhaps even the 143 horsepower BMW R1300 GS. As in the past, the Versys positions itself as pure street-oriented machine despite its high-rising stance, though, and that can pay off given that most riders never venture away from the tarmac. (2025) Kawasaki Versys 1100 Verdict. Most people who bought a Versys 1000 didn't complain of a lack of power, but equally most of us will put our hands up for a few additional horsepower. It'll be interesting to get the new bike on the dyno and see how and where the power is made and whether Kawasaki's work to find more torque is more visible in the mid-range than just the peak torque figure. The old bike was an unsung choice for two-up tourists who prefer the smoothness and power delivery of four cylinders, and there have always been some very good deals around the base model too. This new version offers a lot more performance for not much more money. We're really looking forward to putting some miles on it on our favorite roads.